Did you lose everybody?
No, we are here.
I hear.
Only socks.
No, I'm here.
Only socks is on the screen. Honorable.
We are here.
Yes,
Honorable
yeah.
Sandile is on the screen.
Yeah.
We are here. Okay, is the speaker still here?
Rhoda, Speaker.
Madam Speaker, I'm here. Fortunately, I'm here. I'm not lost.
Speaker.
I'm here, Madam Speaker.
The speaker is not here. We seem to have lost the speaker. We were with member Bloom, who was asking his questions to the MEC for health. Member Bloom, because I was not presiding at that moment, may I ask you to repeat your questions, please? Member Bloom.
Madam Acting Speaker, I'll do so. I just need to find them again. Yes, to the MEC for Health, regarding vaccination, MEC, please enter. What has been the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic on vaccinations for children? 2, what are the approximate percentage reductions of such vaccinations for each category so far this year as compared to last year? And 3, what steps will be taken to ensure that vaccinations for children can be maximized despite the COVID-19 pandemic? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Bloom. Honorable MEC Bandile Masuku, please respond to Honorable Bloom's questions. Honorable Masuku, or any acting MEC. If Masuku is not around, can we get an acting MEC, one MEC that is acting on his behalf, to respond to the questions, please?
It's social development, Honorable Malubane.
Okay, thank you very much, Speaker, for coming back. MEC Social Development.
Honorable Lesufi, can you respond?
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. I don't know what I must respond on. I'm not aware that I'm acting for MEC Masuku. I'm truly sorry if I am. I was not aware and was not made aware. Thanks, Madam Speaker.
Speaker, Honorable Lesufi is not acting. Can we then, because MEC Bandile Masuku is not yet connected, can we then move to the next question and we'll come back to Honorable Bloom's question later? Speaker, can you hear me? Okay. Can we move to the next question? I think the next question is from Honorable Ntseki. Can we then request Honorable Ntseki to read out her questions, and then we'll come back to Honorable Bloom when MEC Bandile Masuku is connected. He's struggling with connections. Honorable Ntseki.
Thank you, Acting Speaker. With regards to Ward 16, Ekurhuleni, could the MEC please indicate how many food parcels requests were applied for from this ward? When was this application submitted to the department? How many people were assisted from all the applications from this ward? Who submitted the list that was used to distribute food in this ward? And what happened to the list that was submitted by the ward councillor? Thank you very much, Acting Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ntseki. Can we then request Acting MEC Panyaza Lesufi to please respond?
Thank you so much, Acting Madam Speaker, Honorable Premier, members of the executive, the leadership of all political parties in the legislature. Thank you so much, Honorable Member Nsefa, for the question. The department is not aware of the food parcel request from Ward 16, Captain Park in Ekurhuleni, and the department therefore has not received any application from the ward. And your question 3 on how many people were assisted would automatically falls off because we didn't receive any list. And you asked us whether who submitted the list. As we've indicated, we are not aware. What we are aware of as a department is that the ward council has confirmed with us that he had submitted his list to the Ekurhuleni municipality, not to the Department of Social Development. And I therefore suspect that the arrangement was made with the municipality of Ekurhuleni. The Department of Social Development is in the process of consolidating lists from local authorities as well as the NGOs or social partners that we're distributing outside our system so that we can consolidate one figure that can be made available to all the people of Gauteng. But thus far, we have not finalized the consolidation of those lists from Ekurhuleni. And it's quite clear from the question that we have submitted that the ward council of that area submitted this list to the Ekurhuleni municipality. Thank you so much, Acting Speaker.
MEC Masuku, may I then request Member Zeki to make a follow-up question or a comment?
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I have in front of me, Honorable Speaker, an email where I was CC'd that was sent to support@gauteng.gov.za, which is the official request for Gauteng social development for food parcels, for 3 different lists submitted by Councillor Yaku Tereblanche for Ward 16 Ekurhuleni. To date, that email has not been responded to. He has received a reference number, which I'm happy to forward to the acting MEC if he would like to see it, and nothing has happened. In fact, the department has come into the ward and distributed food parcels, but not even acknowledged the food requests that were made by the ward councillor. It is quite sad that this is what happens continuously, where dear ward councillors apply, but the department does what they like in the ward and they disregard the list that was submitted by the ward councillor. Then we wonder why we are being asked that dear public reps must support by going out and asking who the most vulnerable people are who need food parcels in those wards, and then they don't get assisted. I thank you, Acting Speaker.
Thank you very much, Member Nsek. In terms of Rule 134 in bracket 7, I now open up for additional supplementary questions or additional remarks by members who want to do so.
Madam Speaker, this is Chris Orr.
Yes.
Member Bosch.
Yes, Member
Madam
Bosch.
Speaker, so Kanyile as well.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kanyile. Member Bosch, it's your chance, ma'am, to speak.
Okay, thank you, Madam Speaker. I would just like to pose a follow-up question in terms of Rule 1347 to the MEC, and it's with regards to the recent oversight committee visit that we had to the COVID-19 food parcel call centre, as well as his response to Member Nseke. Could the MEC kindly clarify when the system will be amended to ensure that there is a feedback loop from the regional food banks to the call centre, and again also to the people who actually submitted the request for food parcels? Without this feedback mechanism in the back end of the system, we will continue to face challenges where MPLs and councillors who submit lists remain in the dark and are unaware of which food parcels have been delivered and which ones were rejected. I would appreciate it if the MEC can just respond to that.
Thank you very much, Member Bosch. Honorable Kanyile, please, your comments or your questions, sir.
Chair, please.
Member Kanyile.
Chair, can you recognize me, please?
Who are you?
The Heavenly Barbados. Yeah.
Oh, okay. You must please indicate your name so that they should be able to recognize you. Otherwise, I won't be able to recognize you, ma'am. Yes, Member Kanyile?
Okay.
Yes, Chair, with regard to the question asked, and the response by the MEC, I just want to find out when lists are submitted, is it true that, is it correct, or is it the position of the department to ensure that when they deliver food parcels, those are delivered directly to the applicants, or they are delivered through the councillors who submitted the list? I just want clarity on that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, sir. Member Bodinas, you are recognized.
Thank you, Speaker. MEC, I just want to know about the applications that we've sent you people for food applications, and it was sent last month, and up till now there is reference numbers, but the food parcels are not delivered as yet. So I just want to get clarity on that. Do we do this? Do we do these things just to get numbers, or do we do it for the communities? Because I think that those people have been waiting very long. Since the lockdown started, there's nothing that they've got, and that's in Reveille, that's in West.
But also, MEC has been explaining this thing for far too long. He has been explaining this thing for far too long.
The whole of Joburg hasn't got all these parcels. Please, can you tell us when are these people going to receive all these parcels? Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Yusufi. Please respond to the supplementary question or short remark.
Thank you so much, Acting Speaker. Truly appreciate the opportunity. Madam Speaker, maybe just to put context so that people understand where we are and how we are delivering the food parcels, I think it will assist. Thus far, we've delivered 184,000 food parcels by yesterday. And by yesterday, we've reached almost 122,000 families. And it will really be unfortunate if people will think that will then skip other people purely because their list came from local government or came from their councillors of a certain political parties. Because people that are giving us these names, we don't ask for political affiliation, and we also don't ask if the word councillor comes from any political party. I'm just pleased that Memansech acknowledged that they was delivering the word of the food parcels. The only concern is that it didn't go through the councillor, whereas the list was compiled by the councillor. And I've said in the answer that the list that was submitted by the councillor, when we contacted the councillor, the person that submitted the list, the councillor said he sent that list to the municipality, didn't send to us. If there were other lists that were sent to us and there was reference number, that's the reason why they was delivering that particular word. Maybe it's a different list. But remember, the submission of list does not mean automatically you qualify for the food parcels. The criteria that we've explained of people that qualify for food parcels. So if you just submit a list and think that it's automatic, it will be unfortunate. We can't give people that are employed or people that are salaried or people that are getting other forms of social grants the same food parcels. That will be double dipping. We've got 5 clear categories of beneficiaries. We've indicated the priority during the COVID area was people that were released from hospitals to space for hospitals to accommodate people that might have infections of COVID. We said that we're going to give to bedridden people, people that are sick, people that need to take medication. But unfortunately, they can't take medication on an empty stomach. And these are the lists that we get from local clinics and hospitals. These are the people that we've prioritized and we've indicated our priority to those people. The second category, and we've emphasized that, was child-headed families, or children that were supposed to get their school-related nutrition, but unfortunately, because schools were closed at that time, they were going through difficulties. So all those child-headed families, we wanted to provide them with the relevant support. And then the third category, we prioritized the homeless people, because during COVID, homeless people, members, I think the speakers, the third category we emphasized that it was homeless people, people who were in the street, and during COVID, we were requested to stay at home, and homeless people have nowhere to stay, and therefore we prioritize support to them. The fourth was people that were victims of gender-based violence. This were women or children or the elderly or people with disabilities. That these are the people that we prioritize to get. Then we started to work. There is a terrible feedback. Thanks. And the fifth group, and that's the part that we said we're working on, and now government has agreed that we must consider this group, because originally they were not part of this beneficiary list, is people that were unemployed purely because of the COVID difficulties. These were people that were either working in the car wash or were assisting in doing gardening or odd jobs, and on the basis that this kind of work were prohibited during level 5 and level 4. We requested that these people be incorporated. And within that context, people should understand that we're providing 1,200 food parcels per region per month. And if you're providing 1,200 food parcels, for example, for Johannesburg alone, 1,200 food parcels is a drop in an ocean in Johannesburg. We're receiving averagely 17,000 calls. So if we're providing 1,200 food parcels, whereas we are receiving 17,000 calls, you can see that the numbers are not going to mesh. And that's the reason why we went back to the executive to say, we really believe we need to ramp up. And the executive has agreed that we need to ramp up, and they've given us the go-ahead to increase our distribution from 1,200 per month per region to 4,000 food parcels per day per region. And that's what we are doing now. So member Badenhorst, all those people that might have been on the list before and we have not touched them, we are now starting to ramp up so that we can cover them, because the numbers were fewer before. As I said, it was 1,200. Now we are moving to 4,000 per region. So we're going to cover as many people as possible. But we are also checking the database that is coming back from the Department of Social Development on the basis of the COVID-19 350 Rand grant. People who are going to receive that grant, we're eliminating them from the list of food parcels, because you can't double dip. If you get the 350 Rand, you can buy a food parcel on your own and the food you want on your own. And if you are not on that list, we'll continue to provide that kind of support. So people with reference number, member Badenhorst that have not been there, will be in a position to assist them. But if you say the entire Johannesburg has not received food parcel, we are misrepresenting facts, and we can prove that we are misrepresenting facts. We've got a map that we have now made available, and I'll request, Madam Speaker, if you don't mind, that we make that map distribution, the geo maps that we have, we make it available to all members of the House so that they can see each and every area, including colored communities. We can indicate where we have distributed and how many food parcels we've distributed in those areas. And we've distributed across the province. So there's no single area in the province that has been left out of that distribution. So when you receive our maps, you will see that the statement we've just uttered, that no single person in Johannesburg can receive food parcels, is not only misrepresentation of facts, but is baseless. Member Kanyile, you are right. Our delivery model is very simple. Yes, we can receive reports or requests from councillors or public representatives that can be members of the legislature or members of parliament. But when we distribute, we have no obligation to go back to the person who gave us the list to say, here are your food parcels, go and distribute them. We are distributing them through our own channels as the department, and we really believe that channel has been working because we've never had problems. If you can see where there have been problems of distribution, those problems are not related to the Department of Social Development. It's either NGOs or other social partners that are distributing. We can account for every individual have given the food parcel.
Member MEC Sufi, and I request.
Nigeria is lying, that is why.
May I request IT to come in and assist in making sure that our system is. Member Sufi. Member Sufi. Okay. Can I request all members except a member that is speaking to switch off his or her video? Please switch off your video. The system is overloaded, so please switch off your video. And actually, Member Sufi, can you please continue? There's areas where we're not able to hear you. So can you please repeat at least some few paragraphs of your response, please, sir? Member Sufi. Okay. We'll move from Member Sufi once IT is still assisting us in order to make sure that our system is back to normal. I'm informed that Member MEC Bandile Masuku has joined us, and I will therefore request MEC Masuku, you've got the questions from Member Bloom, to please respond to Member Bloom's questions, sir. Member Masuku.
Thank you, Honorable Acting Speaker. The question is question 11 on the regarding vaccination.
Yes.
Yes. Now the first question says that what has been the effect of COVID-19 pandemic on vaccination? There have not been a seriously adverse negative impact on the provision of immunization in the province. This is evidenced with the data that we have from the DHIS. In 2018-2019, the percentage of fully immunized children under 1 year coverage was around 84%. And in 2019-2020, the percentage of fully immunized children under the year of coverage was around 88.2%. So in terms of measles, the second dose coverage in 2018-2019 was 78.9%. In the previous year, 2019-20, measles coverage was over 80%, was 80% or 79.8%. So the full data indicates that there was actually an increase in the percentage of children under 5 who have been able to get the second dose of actually measles. This doesn't mean that when I'm answering it this way and the issue of the data that shows that there's no negative impact, doesn't mean that there was no interruption of the savings in that regard. Our view is that we would have done much better if the restrictions or the lockdown restrictions were not in place. But I think overall, when you look at it in terms of data, there's no negative impact on the issue of data. In actual fact, it has increased slightly. The second question is that we needed to approximate percentage of reduction of such vaccination compared to the previous year. Like I've said, there was no reduction, so the question doesn't really hold at the moment. What will be the third question? What will be the steps taken to ensure that vaccination for children can be maximized despite the COVID pandemic? The department has been able to through its ward-based outreach teams, our community health care workers, through our mass screening and testing on the pandemic. We have included the issue of following up in terms of vaccination. Vaccinations are quite important in us to prevent a number of other infectious diseases. But of note here, it also say that we have in actual fact instituted and increased the coverage in terms of the flu immunization and vaccination that has been there, and we've been putting it up in all our testing stations where we are doing mass testing and mass screening. Thank you, Acting Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Masuku. Before Member Bloom asks a follow-up question or a comment, may I sincerely apologize to members that we are moving from one question to another without allowing an MEC to finish, or the person who's asking the questions to finish. It's because most of the MEC are actually experiencing challenges with connecting to the system. So for the sake of time, we will continue with those that are available. We hope that members will understand. Member Bloom, can you please ask a supplementary question or a comment, sir?
Thank you, Madam Acting Speaker. Yes, that's very pleasing that we're keeping up the level of vaccinations, the level it was last year, and I hope that continues throughout this epidemic. I just wish to point out that, in fact, a few years ago, the department prided itself on having 100% vaccination. For some reason, we slipped, and 88% is actually not good. Compared to the target, which should be close to 100%, which we were previously achieving. So I think we've got some lost ground to recover here, and we'll have to do our best, even though we have this epidemic raging around us. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Member Bloom. In terms of Rule 134, bracket 7, can I then ask other members to ask supplementary questions or comments? Any member who is interested to make a comment or ask a supplementary question? Thank you very much, members. Can we then request Honorable Masuku to respond?
No, indeed, I would agree with Member Bloom that we need to improve on it. But I think the other important aspect that we are going to take forward as a lesson from the pandemic and what we can do better, I think it's just the strengthening of our ward-based outreach teams, our community health care workers, and also creating that capacity. And I think they would be quite a drastic improvement as we go forward, even with us dealing with the pandemic currently. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Masuku. Can I then request Member Mukwebo to read his question, please, directed to Honorable Lesufi. Honorable Mukwebo, you are completely out of order, sir. You can't switch on your music before you ask a question. Honorable Mukwebo, can you ask your question? Read out your question, please. Question ED005, please.
Chair.
The driver must stop his screen.
Chair.
Yes.
Can I read his questions? He was struggling with connection.
Who are you, sir?
Malesela Ledrawa.
Okay. Yes, Ledrawa. Were you the one that switched on your music?
No, it was not me.
It was his mic. It was his mic. Chair.
Okay, I hope it never. Okay, please listen, member. I hope it never happens again. Otherwise, I'm going to switch you off. Can you please?
I never switched any music. I don't even have it here, Chair.
Okay.
So I take for friends, yeah.
Okay, Member Litwaba, please read Member Mukwebo's questions. Question ED005 to the member of the Executive Council for Education.
Thanks, Chair. With regard to COVID-19 Brigade program that will be run by the Gauteng Department of Education that seeks to provide work for unemployed youth 18 to 35 years old by placing youth in schools and government buildings to conduct screening, data capturing, and monitor compliance, social distancing and sanitizing. Could the MEC please respond to the following questions? Question number 1. How will these unemployed youth be identified and trained considering the lockdown restrictions in the province? In your response, kindly expand briefly on the standard operating procedure developed to effectively manage this process. Question number 2, what are the minimum requirements, qualifying criteria that unemployed youth should have in order to participate in this program? In your response, kindly elaborate as to whether unemployed educators or teachers will be given priority in the recruitment. Question number 3, what is the budget allocation for this COVID Brigade program? In your response, kindly indicate what programs this COVID Brigade fall under amongst the department's 6 programs. Question number 4, what protective measures does the department have in place to ensure that those employed in the COVID Brigade do not bring the COVID-19 virus into schools and government departments, or that they themselves are protected from contracting the virus? In your response, kindly indicate the standard operating procedure developed for these programs. And lastly, what priority areas in schools and government buildings have been identified for the deployment of the COVID Brigade and why? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. May I then request Honorable Sufi to please reply to the question?
Thank you so much, Acting Speaker. Truly appreciate that. Thank you so much, Member Malisela Letwawa, for the questions on behalf of Member Mukwebo. The Youth Brigade were initiated as an agent program purely because when the minister started to make an announcement that learners will go back to school on a phased approach, in terms of grade 7 and grade 12, we had to formulate an agent support system for our learners and our educators. And that's when the idea of the Youth Brigade was conceived, to have young people that will assist with compliance, in particular matters related to social distancing, sanitization, as well as scanning and data collection. So on the basis of that, young people were recruited using the following mechanism. 1, a TEPO 1 million database, because it's a database where young people have registered and have shown their interest to assist government or be part of a youth development program of government. The second group that was recruited from our database that we had, because we visited the regions in promotion of TEPO 1 million, we also requested young people to register their interest to support government. Thirdly, we also utilized the social network recruitment program, where we put a link in all major social networks where young people could make an application. On the basis of those applications, we received almost 328,000 applications. And if we have to remove duplicates, remove people that have not filled the entire application, and people that have criminal records, the list went down to almost 200,000 young people. The intention is to recruit 10,000 young people so that we can deploy them to all our schools. We intend to deploy 4 young people per school across the province, with the first phase deploying 2 young people per school. We are prioritizing quintile 1 to quintile 3 schools, and thus far we've deployed 728 young people to quintile 1 to quintile 3 schools. We've got 950 schools in this category. and the deployment of 728 youth brigades is almost 50% of what we need to. The training is conducted by the Department of Health, DCRA, and to date, 2,700 young people have been trained, and they've been deployed to head office, district offices, and schools, as I've already indicated. The education district offices, teacher training centers, and nursing colleges, as well as hospitals with auditoriums, were used as training centers with a strict adherence to the social distancing requirements. Only large venues have been properly cleaned and utilized so that we don't have these young people infecting each other. The minimum requirements that we requested was matric, but we also received people with post-matric qualifications as well with those without matric. And the target group was mainly 18-year-olds up until 35-year-olds. And in distributing these young people to our schools, we requested each and every applicant to give us 2 names
Okay, there seems to be a serious, hello? Member Lisufi? Okay, Member Lisufi, may I request that you submit your response to oral questions in writing to the TPL team? We seem to be having serious challenges when you respond to our questions for now. So for now, Member Lisufi, may I request that you have responded and we have heard you, but unfortunately not all the questions were responded to. Can you, Dr. Lisufi? Anyone who's closer to Dr. Lisufi, please. Who cannot do like a Premier or the whip?
I can't help him, Chair.
Okay. Speaker, Premier, can you help Dr. Lisufi? That was on a lighter note.
I'll send him a message, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Premier. Dr. Malisan, what we'll do is we'll actually send the response to questions in writing to all members who have asked questions due to some of the challenges that we're experiencing because of connectivity. I now hand over to the speaker to please continue the meeting.
Chair of Chairs, I think people must switch off their videos because they are the ones who are causing problems with the network.
Okay, I requested that, Chair, but members still switch on their videos. Speaker, you can take over, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Can we also request members that have their phones on to either take them away from the scene or switch them off? Because even the phones are actually interfering with the system. I have no Honorable Mufama. Honorable PC, your hand was up.
Yeah, thank you, Speaker. No, I'm covered that the Chair of Chairs said that the MEC will respond in writing, but I think it's fine. I'm fine for now. Thank you very much.
Honorable Hassan.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker.
I will take Member Mufama question.
Yeah, but wait, I've called Honorable Hassan now. You don't just speak without being recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's a very short one. It's a Rule 134, subsection 7. It's a supplementary question, just so that it can be noted for MEC Lesufi around youth COVID grade. My supplementary question to that is how ensuring that the people who are in the youth brigade are being deployed to the areas from which they come. This comes out of some complaints from young people who have approached myself to say that those in the Youth COVID Brigade are not necessarily from their locality, and the concerns been raised in that regard. So I just wanted to ask a section 134, subsection 7 follow-up. But of course, I understand that MEC can't answer it now. Thank you, Speaker.
Okay. Honorable Khatebe, Honorable Mufama was going to ask a supplementary question. Therefore, you can't ask a supplementary question on her behalf. And we all agree that Honorable Lesufi will respond to those questions which are noted in writing because of the sounds problem. The next question again, HL012, Honorable Mukwebo to MEC for Health, which will be asked by Honorable Litwaba. Honorable Litwaba.
I must proceed with the question, Chair.
Yes.
Hey, I'm missing a lot here. It keeps on muting. With regard to allegations reported by healthcare practitioners at Gauteng Hospital, claiming that the hospital was being forced to make its own disinfectant by mixing vinegar with bleach after having run off sanitizer, could the MEC respond to the following? 1. What immediate action has the department taken to address allegations made by the healthcare practitioners at the Gauteng Hospital about the lack of PPE at the hospital? 2. How is the department addressing the issue of shortages of PPE, such as face masks, gloves, and sanitizers for frontline workers such as doctors, nurses in hospitals across the province? Question number 3. What procurement processes is the department currently undertaking to ensure that shortages of PPE are addressed in the province? In your response, kindly indicate the department's procurement source for PPE in the province and the budget allocation for the tender awarded, if any. 4. What percentage of the department's budget, please provide amounts in rands and cents, has been redirected to procure PPE to fight against COVID-19? And lastly, what system, if any, has been established to monitor, track, and redress the shortages of PPE in hospitals around the province? Thank you.
Thank you.
Give my video a little.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you, Honorable Litwaba, for the question. I would like to start by indicating that immediately when we received the allegation from the health practitioner involved, we made contact with him, and up to now we have not been able to verify his claim. But this is the response that came directly from the hospital immediately when it was actually indicated to us that the hospital has never forced anyone to make its own disinfectant by mixing vinegar and bleach, that the hospital management has never authorized anyone to make that mixture. The practitioner has been contacted several times to give clarity on his allegation, but to date has not availed himself to enable the hospital to investigate the matter further. The hospital has never experienced any shortage of PPE or sanitizers. A supply chain management system is in place to monitor the PPE stock levels. PPE is a standing agenda in the item in the National COVID-19 Steering Committee. The practitioner, as a sessional doctor, was counseled about institutional reporting lines. The second question is that how is the department addressing the issue of shortage such as face masks, gloves, sanitizers, to all the frontline. The department has ever since started embarked on a wide sourcing of PPE items, and it engaged in a bulk procurement to address these shortages and establish what we call the base in terms of the stocks that we have. The shortage in the market also has actually affected us negatively, but we have made a lot of orders and there are commitments for delivery that have been arriving through the country and for the province. And other than that, we also have going to have a what we call an expo where small businesses who have got stock at hand, which is quality and that can be utilized. The expo is meant to buy all those PPE and stocks from the small businesses so that we also continue to support township and small business. So I think we'll watch the space. The Treasury and our supply chain has been arranging on when we can be able to have that public expo where we will be able to get enough PPE from these small businesses. The third question is what is the procurement process that the department is currently undertaking? The department has established a procurement team, which is an interdepartmental team with various officials from all the other departments, including Treasury and other departments, which then forms the base and the common, consistent, and a well-representative team which deals with this. And through this, they use the Treasury transversal contracts which are there, which are available. Also use provincial contracts, departmental contracts, and also the issue of request for quotations. That's how the sourcing is done. There's no single company that has actually received any tender in this regard, but the team sits almost every week to consider all the RFPs and also consider all the other aspects to it. The fourth question is on the percentage of the departmental budget, which is redirected. The department did not redirect its baseline allocation towards procurement of PPE to fight COVID, but instead committed 115 million that was made available to the Department of Health, Gauteng, through the National Department of Health as part of the Provincial Disaster Relief Grant funding. The total costing prepared by TDOA is to effectively respond to COVID-19 amounts to 15 billion, which constitute almost 27% of the 2021 allocated budget. Of the total resources requirement, 5.9 billion is estimated as the amount that will be required for PPE. This has been communicated with Gauteng Provincial Treasury and presented at the Special Premier's Budget Council. Feedback on TDOA's funding request is still to be communicated by TPT. What systems, if any, have been established to monitor, track, and redress the shortage of staff, the shortage of PPE in hospitals around the province? We have an in-house developed system which is electronic, which continuously used to track and monitor the stock levels and also the consumption of PPE of all the health facilities. This is monitored daily and reported on a daily basis. The other aspect is that the steering committee, which consists of the labor unions and OHS officials in the department, continue to monitor that. We also have got the WhatsApp hotline that we have established. Make sure that those who run short of PPE can directly inform us ahead of this, and we're able to respond rapidly to that regard. The issue of PPE is generally a big problem, a big challenge, but we are at the moment having comfortable levels of stock to take us through. But it doesn't mean that we have stopped procuring. So procurement is continuous, and we want to have enough stock actually going forward. Thank you.
Honorable Dwaba, any supplementary question from you?
Thanks, Speaker. Though I was struggling to hear him, but I think what I picked up is that he is denying the allegations that were placed before him. And I just wanted to confirm that he has undertaken an investigation, or whatever that he said is based on what he was told. And second to that, with regard to the shortage of PPE, what is his take? Does that mean if there are no PPE, there is no work, or what is the workaround strategy around that? And lastly, Speaker, with regard to the utilization of the S.
There's no last. Honorable Letoba, there's no last. 134. Oh yes, it's a supplementary question from you. Okay.
Yes, I was saying with regard to the utilization of the MECs in the procurement of the PPE. Is there any specific process that in place to ensure that our local entrepreneurs or business people are involved in the process, particularly with regard to the long process of procurement? And is there a standardized PPE that they utilize across the province, or it depends on the kind of supplier that they have? Thank you.
Honorable Hassan.
Apologies, Speaker, I don't have a question. Sorry about that.
Honorable Mpisi.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, Speaker. No, just one. I'm triggered by the response from the MEC around the PPEs that small, medium enterprises are going to benefit out of this business and to supply the department with the PPEs. We have received, as a portfolio committee of finance, we have received numerous complaints from small businesses in the province that have been sidelined by the province in terms of them actually supplying the PPEs. And even yesterday, because of the crisis in the schools, this one issue was raised with us yesterday through myself and the coordinator, that the Gauteng is failing them. Now the schools can't even open because of those things of the PPEs and so on. So I just want to find out from the MEC, do they have a data of the small businesses that have registered with the department that are going to benefit out of this? Thank you.
MEC.
Thank you, honorable members. And I'll try to raise my voice so that Honorable Dwaba also hears me. Yes, indeed, we are in a process. We established a website portal where all small businesses and all other businesses registered, and we use that list and database that is there to actually procure from the list. The issue is also about the quality. That's why we wanted also to have the expo, because the expo might be much transparent than all the other processes, where those individuals or those companies who've got PPE, we are able to assess the quality and then be able to then purchase, because there is an established quality assurance team that makes sure that we don't really purchase anything that is there, which is available, but we also assure that there is quality that we are going to use. And unfortunately, the expo will be organized soon, and all those who've got the stock in their hands will have to actually come up. The other question, Honorable, is that there's no way that Gauteng didn't have enough PPE for the schools to be reopened. And I think we must say it here so that everybody realizes and know that Gauteng Education, Department of Education is 99.9% ready to open schools. And this is what we were. So the issue of PPE and people trying to make the case about them being sidelined and everything shouldn't be utilized in a manner that gives us an impression that the Department of Education was not ready, yesterday. It might not have been perfect, but people must just resist that temptation of making such accusations. indeed, we do realize that the portal is there. There are almost 8,000 or so people who are in the portal and who might require us to be able to purchase it. Because our philosophy is that it wouldn't make sense that we have people who've got PPE in their warehouses and we don't have enough in our facility. So the important thing to procure those that and take away the PPE from the hands of those of small business. And that's what is the process that we are going to enter into moving forward, because the procurement of PPE is going to be continuous and it's not going to end now. Thank you.
Thank you, MEC. Can you go to next question, HLO 13, Honorable Dikhamela, to MEC for Health.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. With regard to Department of Health preparedness on COVID-19, can the MEC answer the following? What is the readiness of Gauteng Department of Health in case COVID-19 illnesses are increased to higher infection rate? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, MEC.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker and Chair of the Portfolio Committee. You know, one thing that I've said consistently is that readiness usually is only when you have passed the process. You know, it's like when you prepare for exam and somebody asks you a question, are you ready for exam? The fact of the matter is that we've put a number of systems in place which makes us comfortable that we would be able, and we have been able adequately to respond to the disease spread within Gauteng. And since we have been established and that the COVID pandemic was said and pronounced as a national disaster, the department has established a nerve center, which we call a war room, for a lack of a better term, which meets and daily tracks all the interventions that we've put into place and also analyze the data that we have. It has also got established work streams which continuously monitor the strategy, the policy, and the resource requirements as we move forward. The NERV Center is part of the bigger command center, which is co-chaired by myself and the DG of the province, which reports to the Command Council, the Provincial Command Council, which is chaired by the Premier, which is basically constituted by the executive and the representative of the Prof Joint, which is the security cluster, and SALCA, where we are able to then make some of the decisions from there. So we are pretty much comfortable to say that we have prepared issues that relate to infrastructure on how we are going to move forward. We've got 5 quarantine sites that we are utilizing currently, which has been donated or made available by the SOEs in ESCOM, SLN, Telcom, and the Rodeplat, and now we have actually Nasrec. So we have almost 2,000 beds that are available for quarantining and isolation. This is also without outside what we have been doing in our own facility in terms of increasing capacity. We have activated a number of beds that ordinarily were not going to be activated at Discoverers Community Health Center and also at Lenesia South Community Health Center. And we also activated beds in Puluso, activated beds in Satoa, activated beds in Tshwane District, which is almost like a COVID hospital. And these are the beds that we have. And in terms of also infrastructure, we have taken a posture that for us it's better to add capacity within our own facilities. So in terms of different clusters, in George Mukari cluster, Krisani Baragwanath cluster, and Charlotte Matrake cluster, we are going to add beds in that regard, and it's something that we'll be using alternative building technology in that regard. So in terms of infrastructure, we are basically adequately prepared for now, but we are working towards the additional of these 1,400 beds in these clusters that we have actually spoken about. And we also have got, we are refurbishing a facility in West Rand in Rafom, which is a hospital from Anglobold, Ashanti, which has been made available, and the work has been continuing. It will be ready by end of this month, towards by the end of this month, towards July. So this is what we have been doing, and we are also having a total of 18,000 staff members who are involved in tracing and contact tracing. Hence, our contact tracing has been quite improved over a period of time. This contact tracing teams also include our community healthcare workers who have been trained in doing the training, and they've been in the forefront of that engagement. We also have got the Kilo app, which we have launched last year, but now has got functions that will help anyone and anybody to be able to do self-screening and also give information in terms of COVID. And those who've got, who don't have smartphones, there is a USSD number, which can be utilized to do the issue of screening. We also, when the interprovincial movement was allowed, we then established a full-time post where we were able to do screening and testing at the roadblocks. And we also included in our screening and testing aspect, we included correctional service, and lately we have included the mining houses as one of our major concerns. And through the collaboration with the Department of Economic Development, we've been having conversation with malls and shopping center owners to avail space. And I think we have seen somewhere in the media where we have launched some of the testing sites in the malls, because this is where most of the interaction amongst people does happen. So give them the opportunity. And in this regard, we also increase the capacity or the bouquet of services, as I indicated in the last question I was answering, which also includes screening on TB, screening on HIV, screening on non-communicable diseases, and also looking at issues of immunization and reproductive services. So this is what we have been doing, just to increase our capacity of testing. Then we have also enlisted assistance of the public, of a private lab, make sure that when we deal with outbreaks, we're able to reduce the waiting time in terms of turnaround, and also to deal with it, to act on the capacity challenges of the National Health Laboratory services. So in all, Madam Speaker, I did speak about the PPE in the previous question. All in all, I think we are adequately prepared. We are continuously engaging in the modeling, and the modeling that we are using is actually helping a lot in making sure to create some certainty in terms of our planning and in terms of our focus. And maybe lastly, that in June we'll be finalizing all the appointments for COVID, particularly in terms of health professionals and health workers, so that we are able to have enough staff members for all these new beds that we are creating and the new hospitals that we are refurbishing. So by end of this month, we would have issued enough contracts to cover our extra demand of the work that we need to be doing. Combined with that is the issue of contracting general practitioners to assist us with the school And that agreement is almost signed, and the issue now is just to finalize the contract with the said GPs who will cover our schools. So yes, indeed, we are worried that the peak will come, but the issue is that we need to continue to enforce some of the measures that we have put into place to make sure that we are able to slow down the infection transmission and continue to give us more time to build this capacity that I've spoken about in terms of infrastructure, in terms of human resource, and in terms of PPE, and also the issue of testing, which is something that we have caught up on, and we are now dealing with the issue that relates to backlog. Thank you.
Thank you, MEC. Honorable Dikhamela, any supplementary question?
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. The system today was very bad. So
Yeah, the system
am I
is...
audible?
No,
Am
we
I
didn't hear
audible?
you.
Oh,
We can hear you, Honorable Dikhamela.
okay, thank you, Speaker. I'm saying, yeah, the readiness perhaps was based on level 4 and backward, but based on what happened yesterday, when we saw the behavior of alcohol consumers, perhaps more work needs to be done because there will be a lot of infection, because social distance is the thing of the past, as we saw by these people who are consuming alcohol. Otherwise, I think I'm covered. There is readiness in terms of the department's plan. Thank you, Speaker.
Madam Speaker,
Honourable
thanks very much. Just to follow up to the Honourable MEC, what is his modelling telling us about when the peak will be? Well, specifically, when will we run out of ICU beds? I think that's going to be a critical period. Does he have any indication when that's going to happen? And what negotiations or interactions been happening with the private health sector in order to use private hospital ICUs? I think that's a very important resource that we're going to have to use. If you could just update us progress with the private sector and when exactly he thinks we might run out of public sector beds and have to use private hospitals. Thank you.
Honorable MEC.
Thank you, all honourable members.
Sorry, point of order, Madam Speaker.
Pass up.
Madam Speaker.
Honorable Moretti.
Yes, there are other hands that have been raised. Is it possible for you to observe the other hands and let them ask in terms of 134 subsection 7? Thank you.
I see Honorable Dwaba only. Honorable Dwaba.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Speaker. I think we have been time and again told that when we're moving from level 4 to level 3, that we have flattened the curve from the new interpretation as opposed to the first one that was presented to us by the epidemiologist. So now I wanted to ask the MEC in terms of his confidence level, percentage-wise. At what level would you say we are ready? Percentage-wise, is it 80% ready, 90% ready, or we're still sitting at around 40%? Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Msimanga. Honorable Msimanga.
Madam Speaker.
Ghana. Oh, is that Msimanga?
Someone is muting me when I try to speak, Madam Speaker. Thanks very much, Madam Speaker. Just a follow-up to this question, and also a bit touching on what the Honorable Bloom touched on in terms of the patients that originally will be admitted in public hospitals, and they will have to be referred to private facilities. How will that aspect be financed, and has there been funds set aside in that regard? And with regard to the field hospitals, have the personnel been identified and trained, and where will they be coming from? Thanks very much, Madam Speaker.
Honorable MEC.
Thank you, honorable members, for the question. The issue of the peak, in terms of our modeling, we're using the infective rate of 3, and we have seen the benefits and the success of the lockdown in terms of delaying and pushing outward the peak. But you see, now we are also engaging in an exercise that will tell us how do we determine the peak and what will be the peak mean to us. Because for me, it's not about the system being overloaded, Member Bloom. For me, the peak should reflect on the number of infections, and those infections at the time the healthcare system would be able to deal with. Because if we are going to say we are going to wait for the peak where the whole system is overwhelmed, then it means there wouldn't have been time for planning. So we are trying to come across with a proper definition what will trigger the issue that relates to the peak. And the number of literature that have been reviewed indicates what you are saying about being overwhelmed, but I just think that we need to have a better and helpful definition of the peak that will help us be able to deal with it. So for me, is that we need just to create enough space and capacity, enforce the regulations as they are, and push more outward the issue where we're going to have high numbers of infection rates. The exponential levels and growth of everyone, of the numbers, are quite concerning, but we have a strategy which we think at the moment it's still working. We are going to continuously improve on it. You'll know that last 2 weeks back, we launched a ward-based approach where we go to the hotspots where the numbers are coming up. And now when we look at new cases every day, we look at new cases and also identify where they come from, and we're able to focus in that space. So there are a number of things that we need to put into place other than us just waiting for when the system will be overwhelmed. And we just need to strengthen that aspect, even of tracing, of contacts, issues of isolation and quarantining of infected individuals. Yes, indeed, we have a MOU signed with all our private hospital groups in the province in terms of the availability of bed spaces. So every time when we talk about our numbers of bed space available, we also include their beds that are available. But it's so important to make this point here that beds availability always fluctuates. You know, it fluctuates in the number of that, because it's not going to be beds that will be lying there empty. You know, it means when there are patients who require the beds, they will be actually utilized. So the number as it stands is not like the beds will just be empty, waiting for patients. And I do agree with the chairperson of the portfolio committee that with what we saw on the alcohol consumption, we now know that part of our beds will be taken away by trauma, and it might mean that we must have a different strategy. We had, Member Ghana, taken a point of view that we don't want to have a whole lot of field hospitals, because we wanted to create capacity within our own facility, build beds within our own facility, and the process has been completed of procuring. I think construction should be actually starting this week. We are using alternative building technology, which will be much quicker and faster. And we're hoping by the time of July, towards August, we would have completed this extra capacity in the wards that in the clusters that I spoke about. You remember that we said we're going to build extra beds in Kopanong, we're going to build extra beds at Para, we're going to build extra beds at George Mukari, we're going to build extra beds in Italy Jubilee. And these are beds that will give us close to 1,600 beds that ordinarily we would have not had as we go. So our posture and our view just get more of our capacity within our own facilities than to build, spend $1 billion in a field hospital, which after the COVID, we wouldn't have the benefit of its utilization. So it's better to use our own capacity in that regard. And I think the creativity and the dynamism that we brought in terms of APT will make it more quicker and faster and more equally durable. Yes, indeed, we are preparing Nasrec as one of our projects in terms of the field hospitals, but we want those projects to be purely sponsored because if we have to spend money on which we use on fiscals, which is our fiscals, it must be on our own facilities and creating our own capacity. And yes, we are at the moment entertaining a number of proposals on field hospitals, except the Nasrec. There's a discussion with BMW and Mizan in Roslin, which they made some commitment towards that regard. So we are working on in that space. Member Lidwaba, I'm not sure if I must say, but I know for certain that what we have been dealing with in the past 3 months, it has been within our own power and capacity, and basically our own thing, as Member Food will say, that hope is not a strategy, but what we have put into place will enable us to make sure that we have enough capacity actually going forward. Maybe my last point here is that, yes, the peak as it's been defined, we are seeing it around August, September, but like I've said, it also depends on what we're still going to be doing between now and August. If we're just going to lay as sitting ducks, it might be a big problem. So we still need to put a lot of effort in enforcement of regulations, enforcement of social distancing, enforcement of hygiene, and also the restriction of big gatherings or big gatherings or overcrowded actually spaces. So the costing of the beds, Member Khan, we have not. It's going to be a national discussion. It is also a function that is also within DTI into the competitions commission ambit, because if you sit with them, it's almost like we are setting prices. So it will be affected by that. But the MOUs are there, they've been signed, there's a general understanding amongst ourselves, even in terms of us monitoring what is actually happening in their spaces. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Masuku, for your lengthy response. May I then request Member Sirote, if I'm not mistaken, to read question 4 to...
Madam Speaker, there's a question by myself, Member Bloom.
Okay, let me just check Member Bloom. Is it question HL014? Member Bloom? Okay. May I then call upon Member Bloom to ask the question directed to the Honorable MEC for Health? Member Masuku, Member Bloom, please ask your question. Member Bloom.
What disappear, Chair?
Okay. And Dr.
Yeah.
Bloom?
Sorry, I had a malfunction. Let me go ahead. It's to the MEC for Health regarding malnutrition cases in Gauteng since the lockdown was instituted. Will the MEC please indicate 1, whether there's been an increase in malnutrition cases compared to the same period in previous years? 2, if so, approximately how many extra malnutrition cases were seen compared to the same period in previous years? 3, how many malnutrition cases have been seen at the Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital in March, April, and May this year? 4, how many malnutrition cases were seen at the Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital in March, April, and May last year? And 5, how many of the cases in 3 and 4 above were children? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Member Bloom. Honorable Masuku, please respond to questions, sir.
Thank you, Member Bloom, for the question. And I think the major issue here is that we have been having a concern about malnutrition previously as a province, and it's an indicator that we follow up every time. It's one of those that we report to later all the time at a quarterly basis, and it actually has continuously worried us. We also had a question that we answered about why do we see malnutrition in Gauteng. There were a number of reasons that were provided, particularly the one that that most of the cases are from informal settlements, and most of the children are actually one of those that are born from foreign nationals. And usually some of them, particularly where we've got a high mortality rate in that regard, are those who come to the facilities quite late. According to the question that you have asked, Member Bloom, in actual fact, there has been a sharp reduction in the number of cases of malnutrition in Gauteng as compared to the same period last year, in the same period in the previous year. Mainly, I think we attribute to this reduction to the lockdown itself, because people are restricted from moving around and all that. But there's no sharp increment we've seen in this regard. So if you ask the second question, it doesn't apply because there's no increase. And the third question, how many malnutrition cases have been seen in Baragwanath in March, April this year? It's around 101. And how many cases were seen at the same period, 2019? It was 240. And in the other country, how many cases were about children? Most of them, because we are dealing with malnutrition. Malnutrition mainly does affect children. So all the cases that we're looking at, mainly, most of them was about actually children who are less than 5. Thank you.
Presiding officers?
Yes, okay. Member Bloom, you can ask a supplementary question or you can make a comment
Thank you, Madam Acting Speaker. Yes, it's encouraging to hear that there's been a reduction in malnutrition. I think we need to monitor this very, very carefully. We're in the early stages of this pandemic, and the last thing we want to have is extra cases of malnutrition, which are life-threatening, and we need to look at this holistically because we have a lot of issues from which people suffer from health problems, and we have to make sure that we tackle them all together as much as we can while we fight the pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Bloom. May I then check if there is any member that wants to make a supplementary question or make a comment in terms of Rule 134 in bracket 7? Thank you very much, members. Can we then move to the next question directed to the MEC for MEC Gauteng, MEC Maile?
Thank you, Acting Speaker. A question to the MEC is as follows. Regarding the prevention of the spreading of COVID-19 virus, could the MEC please indicate, 1, is there a plan for de-densification of people living in Gauteng's informal settlements and townships to stem the spread of COVID-19? 2, if the answer to the above is yes, please provide a progress report of the rollout of such plan, including how many areas are identified to benefit from this plan. 3, if no such plan is in place, please explain what measures the department is taking to assist people living in densified areas. 4, if there is a plan, is it the intention of the department to move residents to TRAs or to areas where there are unfinished projects? And 5, does the department have a projection as to how many extra housing units will be required at the peak of the virus? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. MEC Maile, can you please respond to questions?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chair of Chairs. Response to the first question is yes, there is a plan. The province's Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs and Human Settlements, as you know, there are 2 separate departments, together with the National Department of Human Settlements, Water and Sanitation, are implementing a program known as the National Upgrading Settlement Program, which focuses mainly on the upgrading of informal settlements to improve the lives and living conditions of people staying in informal settlements. There is a business plan which details plans to incorporate informal settlements for formalization purposes in the current financial year. There is a plan for the de-densification of people living in Gauteng's informal settlements and townships to manage the spread of COVID-19. Upon declaration of national disaster and lockdown by the President of the Republic of South Africa on the 20th March 2020, the Minister of Human Settlements, Water and Sanitation, Honorable Lindiwe Sisulu, activated the emergency housing program in all the provinces within South Africa, where approximately 29 overcrowded informal settlements were targeted. And the National Department has a 3-pronged approach, which is to decongest, firstly, overcrowded informal settlements, and this includes the possibly reallocating those overcrowded informal settlements, the provision of hygiene and sanitary products to affected communities, and this includes outreach programs to communities, provision of water tanks, and ablution facilities, and mass disinfection of informal settlements and affected communities. And this is the physical disinfection of settlements, including deep cleaning of both permanent and temporary structures. On question 2, yes, we've got this identified, as I've said, in all the 5 regions and different municipalities, and municipalities are also having additional work, especially in the metros, that they're doing, and we can certainly supply that information. On question 3, that answer is not applicable because of the fact that there is a program. On question 4, the department has plans and is already implementing the plans, as I've indicated earlier on, and that we also have this emergency housing program and COVID-19 response plan. For instance, in Mamelodi Hostel, there will be 2 temporary residential structures that are already complete, and we will be rolling over another 900. And there are also plans underway to roll out these temporary structures in other identified informal settlements, as I've said earlier on. The answer to the last question, so the department is planning, we can't project, but what we know is that the housing backlog is almost about a million. So it will not be different. The only thing is that we will be building about 13,500 these structures according to the budget that has been allocated to us. Thank you very much, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable MEC Maile. Member Bloom, any supplementary question or a comment?
Correction, Member Sirota, Acting Chair.
Oh, yeah. My apologies, sir.
Thank you, no problem. Thank you for the answers, MEC. MEC, unfortunately, these answers are very vague and wide. They don't go to the meat of the question. It appears that the emergency plan appears to me to be merely an extension of the existing formalization plan. You speak about 29 overcrowded settlements. How many of them are in Gauteng? To what extent have that plan been put in place in Gauteng? How many numbers have been moved? When will they be completed? Will it be before the peak of the virus? None of these answers have been answered. Secondly, to what extent will the emergency housing program affect the rollout as part of the intention to bring the backlog of 1 million down? And insofar as the numbers so far, how many people have been moved to TRAs, and what is the immediate plan leading up to the peak of the virus? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sirute. Honorable members, in terms of section 134, subsection 7, you now have a chance to ask a supplementary question or make a comment. Any members interested to speak?
Yes, Chair. So, Member Msimang.
Thank you very much, Member Msimang. Noted. Any other member?
Malisela. Malisela Lidwaba.
Pardon. Okay, thank you very much, members. I've got
Malisela.
3 members. Yes. Okay, thank you, Member Msimang. Your comment, your question, sir.
Thank you very much, Ma'am. Ma'am, listening to MEC Maile, his statement contradicts what we have been getting at the Oversight Committee. The department, what he says is the plan, I can tell you right now they will fail, because there's already 100 million rand slash in terms of the USDG grant that the municipalities are supposed to be getting, which means that the development of or formalizing of services in informal settlements is actually not going to happen at the rate that he's talking about. For a number of reasons. I'm not going to repeat those. I think my colleague, Member Sorota, has raised those. But already now there's already a budget cut when it comes to resources available for the fast tracking of services in informal settlements. So how does he intend on doing that if indeed the budget is already cut? So that is the question that I would like to ask in addition to what Member Sorota has asked.
Thank you very much, Member Litwaba.
Thanks, Acting Speaker. I wanted to be specific and then take one case in point of Situetla. When the National Ministry made this pronouncement, and subsequent to that, the city of Johannesburg took an initiative to go there and relocate those people. There was a reaction from the community, particularly people who are still on the 1996, 1997. And as a result, there were some challenges there. I'd want to know from the MEC, specifically with regard to Situetla, what are any intervention mechanism that they have since employed to diverse that particular situation? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Litwaba. Member Badenhorst.
Thank you, Acting Speaker. MEC, can you please tell me when are you people going to give the people of the floods in December some land, because they've been asking for land?
What is you people? What is you people? What is you people? Acting Speaker, can you please no?
We are
We can't be called you people.
Yeah, who is you people? You people is who? Who is you people?
Order.
Are we all out now?
Chair of committees, are you
making the system by making noise?
Comrades, can we please allow the chair of chair to chair the meeting? Can we please allow the chair of chair? Chair of chair.
Yeah, I think in the absence of chair of chair, we can really continue and get the MEC for COPTA to respond to supplementary questions.
No,
just before Deputy Chair of Chairs.
Oh yeah, no, the chair is back. Chair, continue.
Member Badenhorst, the you people elements, it's an offensive word, you know. Can you please withdraw and apologize?
She must withdraw.
For using such. Please withdraw and apologize. I'm not talking to anybody else except Member Badenhorst. Can I ask members to behave? Member Badenhorst, apologize and withdraw, please.
Thank you, Chair. I apologize. But Chair, let us be.
Thank you very much. I said unconditionally apologize. Member Badenhorst, please keep quiet. I said unconditionally apologize or withdraw, and no buts about it.
Okay, I withdraw, Chair.
Thank you very much. Can you continue with your supplementary question?
Can the MEC please, Chair, Chair,
Yes.
can the
Yes, you can
MEC
continue,
please tell us when is it going to give the people of the floods land? The floods that happened in December. Thank you.
Thank you very much, MEC. Honorable MEC.
She's not specific, Chair. She's not specific. Which people?
Member
Of the flood land.
Joe.
Okay, the floods in Mamelodi. Thank you, Chair. And thank you for everybody's comment.
Member Joe, can you please allow presiding officers to chair?
No, that's what I'm doing. No, I'm participating.
Yes, can
I'm
you
not chairing
allow
the
us
meeting.
to chair? Can you allow us to chair, please, sir?
But there was no question there.
Order. And our comrades, can we have order, please, and allow the chair to chair the meeting, please?
Honorable Speaker, Honorable MEC Maile, please respond to supplementary questions. Thank you, sir.
Very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think Member Serota is disingenuous, dishonest, and I think he maybe to a large extent lacks comprehension, because he knows that the process of reviewing our annual performance plans is underway. And in fact, we even had a discussion in the committee, and I don't know which committee's member I'm talking about, because he has not attended the last two. So he's not. So when you
point of order, Chair. Point of order.
When you are saying we're vague and wide, Member Serota, when you say we're vague and wide, it's because you want us to commit to things that are in your head, which are not going to be implemented. So we are committing on what we know we will do. And that's why at the end, I gave you a figure of 13,500. I started by saying that we can't project, but what we know already is that there's 1 million plus houses that are needed, but we don't have money for that. So when you say we are vague, I don't understand what you mean. It just demonstrates a lack of a comprehension, which you demonstrate consistently, even in the committee. But otherwise, it's fine. So Member Msimang says the budget is going to be cut and all that. There's never been always enough budget. I thought he will know this because he was a mayor. I thought he also knows that in government there's what we call competing priorities. So everything is a priority. Giving money to education, to health, to roads, to human settlement, they're all priorities, they're all important. So you will never, it's actually mechanical to expect that there will be a stage where we will have money to do everything. And that is why we don't want to make predictions that are in our heads, and they're not based on money allocated or available. As you will know, the Minister of Finance on the 24th of June will announce a reviewed budget. And at that time, we should be able to talk about relocation. So I think Member Msimang just felt obliged to at least say something, to be seen to be saying something, but we said nothing. So the issue of the budget will always confront us. Member Letwaba, the issue you are raising, it's not just a problem in Stretla. In fact, everywhere, because you will know that many informal settlements came up because they are unplanned, because people invaded the land illegally, and therefore, and that's why we say you should desist as the EFF from encouraging people to do that. And that's why we have a problem everywhere, because when we intervene, for instance, in Mamelodi, when you intervene, you've got people who have been there before those informal settlements came up. And the issue is, why are you not prioritizing us? So what we're trying to do is to strike that balance, because these are all our people, and we don't want them to be stranded and live in dangerous areas, despite the fact that they would have illegally invaded land. So we always try to balance a member door. It's always a big problem everywhere. And then there's a member Bedenhorst, who was basically demonstrating the passion with which the DA hates me. So that's what she was just demonstrating. These members of the DA, they hate me with passion, member speaker. So that's why I'm not surprised to be called these people and all that. And so
point of order, Mr. Speaker.
And then
point of order, Speaker.
What she said, member of order, about the Mamelodi flood victims. In fact,
point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Don't disrupt me, Msima.
No,
terms of the Mamelodi,
the speaker was. I'm asking for a point of order from the speaker. I'm not disrupting
Let's
you. I'm asking for a point.
MEC continue. MEC continue.
Point of order, it is member Msimanga.
So on the Mamelodi flood
point
victims,
of order, Madam
Speaker,
I've asked for a point of order.
You want this answer or not? Because anyway, I have an option.
Madam Speaker, a point of order.
Point of order.
Don't try to be disruptive, Msimanga.
Point of
member
MEC continue.
You are still on the call. We're listening to you.
Oh, you're listening.
Point of order.
So on the Mamelodi victims,
yeah.
In fact, the reason why those people have not been removed, relocated, it's because of the DA
point of order.
And that's
point
why
of order.
to disband that municipality.
Point of order.
For the first time in the last
we allow the MECs to continue and
we have
stop with our point of orders.
We have been able to.
I'm asking for a point of order. Stop muting this our microphone.
The administrators.
MEC Maile.
Yes.
You are not going to bully us here. I'm asking for a point of order.
No one is bullying you. You are bullying
Speaker, we can't be. Speaker, we can't be bullied by Msimanga here.
Member
They can't speak to an honorable member like this as if he's speaking to his own child. No.
MEC Maile.
Member Maile, you said that Badenhorst is a DA member and she's not.
They can say they want to say what
it's the same thing.
It's the same thing. That
the DA EFF is one thing.
You can't differentiate.
Members, can I have order in the house? Thank you. MEC Maile, please sit down. There's a point of order. What is the point of order? What is the point of order?
Thank you very much, Chair of Chairs. MEC Maile must not mislead the people at this house here. The member who spoke and the MEC is referring to is not a representative of the Democratic Alliance.
What is the point of order? What is the point of order?
It's the same thing. It's not a point of order. There's information. There's no point of order. There's only.
And he must withdraw the statement that
I solely man just sit down.
That is the point of order, Chair.
Sorry, who is
You
solely?
can howl all
But
you
to
want.
say what
We
you
are
feel like
solely
saying, but if
you
we
can howl all
speak,
you
then
want.
it's
That's all
always a
you know.
problem.
That's
It's
all
member.
you know. But the MEC must respond here.
Okay, thank you very much, members. It is noted that Member Bedenhorst is not the member of the DA. We have noted that, and thank you very much for raising that. MEC Maile, please continue without any interruption.
ANC people are degenerating, man. Please call them.
And who are you?
Chair, let me conclude.
They must allow you to share the meeting.
MEC Maile, please continue.
Yeah, no, thanks. These people are the same. So what what I was saying is that the reason
These people.
why it.
So you're saying the same thing that you were howling somebody about?
Who are those people? You must be careful when you speak.
Must
Mr.
withdraw
Maile.
that as well.
Sorry,
You must
sorry,
withdraw the
sorry,
same.
Your
sorry.
man bad.
Order.
No, stop being
Order, sorry,
hypocrites, man.
order.
He's making the same thing that you guys
MEC
were howling
Maile.
about.
No,
Yeah, you
sorry.
want me to withdraw, but
MC Maile, may we say Naban?
So who's this
Member
people that
Barin
you're
Host,
talking about?
please
He must withdraw as
behave.
well.
MEC Maile.
Yes,
Barin
Chair of
Host,
Chairs.
please behave. You are not Mandisa.
Chair of Chairs.
MEC Maile. Just withdraw
Yes.
that word, please.
Yes, although I was not speaking to honorable members, I respect them. So I withdraw. I wouldn't address honorable members as such.
Thank you.
So, yes, thank you very much, Chair of Chairs. So what I was saying is that when the flood victims were supposed to be relocated last year, December already, we met with the then DA-led administration backed by the EFF. And we agreed that the city must set aside funds to buy the land. And what they've been doing was to play games with the lives of our people and not implement the decision we made. We even told them that because they were underspending their USDG, and at the time, National wanted to take 800 million from that. We agreed with National that, in fact, they should reprioritize that USDG. They didn't do it until the last few months. Last 2 months, when the administrators came into office. Then the administrators had to now start the process afresh. And they have since secured the land, working through the National Housing Development Agency. So that process, and the land is not just for the flood victims, as I've said. We are going to mix our people, as I've said in my answer to member Ledwaba. Is the same issue that we're dealing with everywhere. So if there was no DA-led administration there, our people would have long been given land and been relocated. So they had to take the administrators, and we are very happy that the land has been secured. Thank you very much, Chair of Chairs.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable MEC Maile. Can I then move to call Member Moriate to read question 4 directed to the Executive Council for Cooperative Governance, Traditional Affairs and Human Settlement.
Thank you, Madam Chair of Chairs. Regarding the City of Tshwane's expenditure on bulk infrastructure, could the MEC please indicate, 1, has there been any partnership entered into between the Gauteng Partnership Fund and the City of Tshwane to improve the city's expenditure on bulk infrastructure? 2, if so, what is the scope and extent of this arrangement? And 3, how much of it can be considered as part of the campaign to tackle COVID-19, if any? Thank you, Madam Chair of Chairs.
Thank you very much. Honorable Maile, please respond to the question, sir.
Thank you very much, Chair of Chairs, and thanks for the question from the member. The answer to question 1 is that the Gauteng Partnership Fund is an entity of the provincial government that operates in the human settlement space. And part of the GPF's mandate is to support and assist all municipalities in Gauteng as an implementing agent and in crowding in private sector funding to support various municipal and provincial projects. In August 2019, the City of Tshwane, through the Office of the Executive Mayor and the MMC for Human Settlements, requested the Provincial Department of Human Settlements to assist the Metro in the execution of various projects. GPF was identified as a suitable vehicle for this collaboration, and projects were identified accordingly. The city has an MOU with the Gauteng Partnership Fund, which identifies broad areas of collaboration, and the MOU is currently under review because it was signed but never implemented. The second question, the answer to the second question, the objectives of the existing MOU includes, amongst others, to manage the processes related to the identification, packaging, and development of social housing, to increase the number of sustainable and affordable human settlements for residents in the jurisdiction of the municipality. On the last question, the answer it's none, as the list of projects on the MOU was done long before the COVID-19, and it must be noted that the MOU is still under review. However, if the municipality will require the help of GPF, GPF will definitely be at their service. So there is no money that has been given to GPF because the MOU was never implemented. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable MEC. Can I then call Member Moriate to please ask your supplementary question or a comment, sir?
Yes, no, thank you very much. And I thank the MEC for giving a comprehensive reply. He's obviously told us the state of play as regards the Gauteng Partnership Fund. Can I ask, in what other way is the province financing or assisting the city with project management of infrastructure projects? Thanks.
Thank you very much. I now call upon members in terms of Rule 134, subsection 7, to ask supplementary questions or comments. Any member interested to speak? Okay. Thank you very much. There is no one. MEC Emaile, please respond.
Thank you very much, Chair. As the honourable member will know, that in terms of the Constitution, Section 154, we are expected as a provincial government to support all the municipalities. And our approach in this term is that support to municipalities will not just be limited to the work that COCTA does.
I can't hear him.
Hello, can you hear me now? Hello?
Yes, now.
Am I audible now?
Yes.
So helping municipalities, if you look at the work that health is doing with the municipalities, is part of that. If you look at the work that we are doing in human settlement, it's part of that. And then you've got COCTA that is coordinating everybody. So in the kind of support we give to all the municipalities, it will vary from municipality to the next. Sometimes municipalities make requests that they need, for instance, project management help or training, or they need finance, or sometimes they want to use our implementing agency, or they want to have a joint approach in dealing with issues and all that. So I know the member is asking about project management, but I'm just saying it's not just on project management only. It's continuous. It's also on other areas, and it's done differently by different departments. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Male. May I then call Member Nell to read the question 4TR004 to the member of the Executive Council for Roads and Transport. I just hope that Honorable MEC Mamabula is in the house. Member Nell, please ask your question, sir.
Thank you, Chair of Chairs. To the MEC for Roads and Transport, with regards to the deep cleaning sanitation of public transport hubs and taxi ranks, could the MEC please indicate the following? How much money has been spent to date in rands and cents? Please indicate how much in rands and cents has been donated to the department by private companies in the names of these. Prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, how often were these transport hubs or taxi ranks sanitized? 3, to date, how many transport hubs or taxi ranks have been sanitized? 4, what is the cost in rands and cents of the sanitation tunnels that was installed at the Beira taxi rank? And finally, 5, are there any plans to continue sanitizing transport hubs and taxi ranks once the COVID-19 pandemic has tapered out? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, honorable member. Our time for questions is almost finished, but what I'm going to request that we continue with our meeting because we were interrupted because of connectivity. So we'll continue until the questions are finished. So members, please, no point of order in order to remind me that the time is finished for questions. Can I then call upon MEC JP Mamabulo to please respond to the question? MEC?
Thank you very much, Chair of Chairs, honorable members. Let me acknowledge the question by Honorable Member Nell. The reply to the first question is that we have to date in total spent an amount of 10.8 million on our public transport COVID-19 prevention program. We have received sponsorships from the private sector, and they are as follows: SA Taxi Finance, Outsurance, the Health Clinic Group, and Gold Ashanti. The amounts that they have donated are yet to be quantified, and that information will be provided, but we did ask them to give us the value in rands and cents of their donations. With respect to question number 2, yes, we have sanitized taxi ranks, as this is a requirement for us to make sure that they are clean. And to this extent, I would like to just indicate that the taxi ranks, historically, as we know, were never really cleaned. They were neglected, and we verified this with the taxi industry. Of course, there have been EPWP, but that was done by municipalities very casually. So the principle is that taxi ranks historically have not been prioritized for general cleaning, and of course, in the context of COVID-19. Now, to date, we have already cleaned about 51 taxi ranks. This is a program that we only started in alert level 4. And we have since, in the last week, increased our capacity to clean the taxi ranks, and we are quite confident that we will reach out to more. And this, Honorable Nell, is going to be part of our maintenance of public transport infrastructure. We were only maintaining roads, and we have since added all public transport infrastructure, most importantly, taxi ranks. We will also be formalizing an MOU with municipalities to make sure that we can consistently service taxi ranks, and most importantly, cleaning them and sanitizing them as a requirement for COVID-19. Now, your fourth questions about walk-in sanitizing booths or tunnels. As a department, we have not spent a cent on procuring any of the sanitizing booths that we used as a pilot, not only in Bara, but in all other taxi ranks in Mabopani. This was from the city of Tshwane. We just participated in their program. The one in Rambek taxi ranks, it was a donation by private sector to Santago. We participated in the program. But just specific to Para, those were donated by SA Taxi Finance. And of course, there was one that was we borrowed from Gauteng on the basis of proof of concept. And we did not spend any money on those. But as we understand it, the market value of these tunnels range between 30,000 and 150,000, depending on the seller or the manufacturer or supplier. The other important issue, the department is working on plans for future transport in the province, and the minibus taxi are critical in our overall planning. And of course, this is consistent with the announcements that have been made. And I can confirm that, yes, moving forward, and as I've already said, we will be continuing with maintaining and cleaning of taxi ranks, just as in line with what the Premier announced in the State of the Province address last year, July, and emphasized this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable. I will now allow Member Nell to ask a supplementary question, and I'm not going to allow any member to ask a supplementary question except that have asked an original question due to time constraint. Member Nell, any supplementary question or comment?
No, thank you, Chair of Chairs. In the interest of time, I'm not going to ask a supplementary question.
Thank you very much, Member Nell. Can we then move to the next?
I can take his slot, Chair.
I said no other member will be given an opportunity to ask a supplementary question or comment due to time constraint. That's what I said, member. Can I then request that Member Ghana read question 4 to the Executive Council for Economic Development, Environment, Agriculture and Rural Development, Member Musupie. Sorry, ma'am. Member Ghana.
Thanks very much, Chair of Chairs. Regarding the relief to the tourism sector in Gauteng, could the MEC please indicate how much in rands and cents has been set aside by the Gauteng Tourism Agency to assist hotels, B&Bs, lodges, and tour operators affected by the COVID-19 lockdown? Second, how many tourism companies have indicated that they are in financial distress? 3, what is the projected number of businesses that will be closed due, as a result of COVID-19 lockdown? 4, what is the projected job loss figure in the tourism and hospitality industry due to COVID-19? And finally, has the GTA drafted a strategy to assist businesses in distress? If so, when will this be made public?
Okay. No, thank you very much, Honorable Member, Honorable MEC Musupie. Please respond to the question, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair of Chairs, and thank you very much to Honorable Ghana for the questions. In relation to question 1, the is that the Department of Economic Development and the Gauteng Tourism Authority has not set aside any funding for hotels, B&Bs, lodges, and tour operators as it works in partnership with the National Department of Tourism to provide information to tourism businesses, to streamline access to the relief program, and to monitor the distribution and impact of the National Tourism Relief Fund to the Gauteng tourism supply sector. And this includes the entities that he spoke to. By the 22nd of May this year, there were 1,551 applications received from Gauteng, and a total of 600,000 rands has been disbursed to 10 approved applicants from Gauteng for now, as we speak right now, and we are monitoring this on a daily basis. The tourism sector, SMMEs and businesses will be eligible for the relief program currently being developed by the Gauteng provincial government. And in light of the GTA's mandate to market destination Gauteng, the GTA will utilize its destination marketing budget of 6.5 million rands to promote the tourism product in Gauteng, including hotels, B&Bs, lodges, and tour operators. An aggressive marketing strategy is key for this sector in order to aid the sector with a phased recovery. In relation to question number 2, the response is that the first COVID-19 impact survey on tourism conducted in April this year by the National Department of Tourism in partnership with Gauteng and other provinces, set to quantify the extent of the impact of COVID-19 on tourism businesses, including SMMEs, including a determination of how effective the support has been and the nature of support that is still required. The findings of the survey show that 99%, that is 1,594 of the overall 1,610 tourism businesses respondents are in distress as a result of COVID-19. So the extrapolated conclusion drawn from the research findings is that 99% of the 611 Gauteng tourism businesses respondents who participated in the survey are in distress as a result of COVID-19, and this trend is assumed to be representative of the overall population of tourism businesses in the province. In relation to question 3, the response is that 46% of the tourism businesses who participated in the National Department of Tourism COVID-19 Impact Survey referred to in question 2 believe that their businesses will not survive long enough to take part in the recovery plan. While at the same time, 64% of the tourism businesses feel neutral or positively believe that their businesses will survive to take part in the recovery. The extrapolated conclusion drawn from the research finding is that 46%, that is 219 of the 611, Gauteng tourism businesses who participated in the survey believes that businesses will not survive to take part in the recovery of the COVID-19 pandemic. While at the same time, 64% of the Gauteng tourism businesses feel neutral or positively believe their businesses will survive to take part in the recovery. This trend is assumed to be representative of the overall population of tourism businesses in the province. In relation to question 4, the response is that the United Nations World Tourism Organization estimates that global tourism arrivals will go down by 20 to 30% in the current year compared to last year, 2019. And then based on the adopted 20% drop scenario, the modeling results show that Gauteng tourism economy is expected to shed an estimated 89,972 jobs. This is from projected 287,482 jobs in 2019. And this will happen by 2020 as a result of COVID-19. And lastly, Madam Speaker, in relation to question 5, the Department of Economic Development, working with its agencies, that is GTA, GLB, GGB, and GGDA, has led the process of drafting the Gauteng Tourism Recovery Plan. The plan seeks to guide the tourism sector in navigating through the COVID-19 pandemic and towards its recovery. It also intends to stimulate demand for inclusive tourism growth, to restore the productive capacity of tourism supply by building the tourism sector's capabilities and identifying opportunities amid the current situation. And it also intends to maintain the sustainable growth of tourism that meaningfully contribute to the environment, social and economic goals of the Gauteng city region. The plan is currently being consulted with various stakeholders in the province and subsequently will be resourced, implemented and monitored by government during the 2020-2021 financial year, MTEF, sorry. And in addition,
Member Mosupia, Honorable MEC.
Yes, Honorable Chair of Chairs.
Please continue, ma'am.
I'm done. I responded to all the 4 questions.
Okay. No, thank you very much, Honorable MEC. May I then request the Member Ghana to ask a supplementary question or a comment?
Thanks very much, Chair of Chairs. I missed a significant chunk of the MEC's response. If I could be finished with a written copy of the response, I would appreciate it. But I want to check MEC now that the business.
Honorable Chair of Chairs, he's gone. I can't hear anything.
Okay. My comment directed to Member Ghana is the question, the response. Member Ghana?
Yes.
The response to questions will be sent to you. All members who have asked questions will be getting responses in writing due to the technical problems that we have experienced today in the sitting. So please expect those. And if you want to make a follow-up to some of your questions, you are actually allowed to, through, of course, the legislature, to ask a supplementary question to the Honorable MEC. Can we then move to the next question? Question by Member Ramolifo, the question ED006 to the Member of the Executive Council for Education. Member Ramolifo.
Yeah, thank you, Chair of Chairs. Regarding school support and the necessary COVID-19 health and safety compliance measures, will the MEC please indicate, did all teachers who were expected to be at schools on the 25th of May 2020 attend? How many teachers failed to return back? Please indicate the impact. Please indicate the impact on school readiness with interventions made.
We are almost ready.
MEC as the department provided PPEs to all learners and teachers, including staff who have returned back to schools, are all districts ready to provide the required support to ensure learning and teaching for grade 7 and 12? Does this include Joburg East District who are without proper office facilities? Where will the Joburg East District be operating from to provide their support to schools from as the contract for their dilapidated offices has expired? Thank you, Chair of Chairs.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Honourable MEC Lesufi, please respond to the questions. MEC Lesufi?
Of Chairs, I'm not sure. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you so much, Chair of Chairs. Thank you so much, Member Ramolifo, for your questions. Truly appreciate it. In terms of your first question, the department expected some of the educators to report for duty, except those teachers that were deemed to be 60 years or over or having comorbidities. The department has advised the SMTs of 93 schools where deliveries were disrupted by criminal elements, mainly in Tshwane West, Tshwane South, and part of Sidibeng, not to report for duty because we've assumed a mantra of safety first so that PPEs can arrive first and then educators or staff members can arrive later. In this regard, you are quite aware that the minister made an announcement over the weekend allowing teachers to come back, and we've given a questionnaire to all our SMTs to consolidate the figures of all teachers that must come back and all those that have reported for duty. And this questionnaire will be returned on the 5th of June 2020, and we'll make this information immediately available to Member Ramolifo. But where we are, our principals are working together with our IDSOs to provide all the relevant support that is needed to ensure that our schools are running. You might be aware that the National Ministry appointed an independent verification team to verify the readiness of each and every province. And on the basis of that verification, Gauteng was given the green light to reopen the schools on the 1st of June 2020 as gazetted. Unfortunately, with the announcement by the minister that we should delay the reopening of schools to the 8th of June,
and use this week to mop up all outstanding matters. We've also taken advantage of this request, and we're concluding with our mop-up arrangements, in particular matters related to orientation, training of teachers, the readiness of the classroom, and most importantly, the support for teachers to provide the curriculum that is needed. In terms of question 3, Chair of Chairs, schools were provided with PPEs for learners, teachers, and peer staff members, but it must be noted that phase 2 of the deliveries of PPEs commenced on Monday, 25th May. As I've earlier alluded, the Minister has given us an opportunity to clean up or finalize the mop-up. The mop-up in our province will affect the following areas. 1, where numbers of a school have increased without the school notifying the district or the province, we are now packaging the backup and the support PPEs that are needed. Secondly, there are schools where we had burglaries or some of their PPEs were stolen. We are also making backup for those ones. And lastly, we are making packages of PPEs for in case of emergency. In case of emergency, we refer to areas where the PPEs may be torn or someone might have forgotten their PPEs at home, so that they can be immediate support immediately when they need something. I must echo the sentiments that were raised by MEC Masuku, that in terms of PPEs in our province, we don't have any challenges or limitations. All our PPEs for our staff members and all our PPEs for our learners are readily available, and they will be distributed using what we term just-in-time approach. Just-in-time approach means that we deliver the PPEs when they're about to be distributed so that they must not be stored and later be stolen. In terms of question 4 of whether all our districts are ready, yes, all our districts are ready. Our districts have been operating and they have provided relevant support to ensure that teaching and learning for grade 7 and 12 resumes with minimum disruptions. As reported to the Education Portfolio Committee meeting of the 21st May 2020, the Johannesburg East District staff members have been allocated 3 buildings, that is Sundown High, Norwood ECD Center, and Morningside Teacher Center. And because they are working in those areas or been allocated in those areas, they are no longer occupying their previous offices. And therefore, question 5 falls off. Thank you so much, Chair of Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable MEC. Can I then get the Honorable Member to ask the last supplementary question and comment? Honorable Ramolefo.
Thank you, Chair of Chairs, and also MEC. Considering the fact that there is a shift of the date, but then some teachers in some schools have returned back, and that the both 2 gazettes which have been signed, the one on the 29th and the one on the 1st, still indicate the return of schools as of the 1st of June. Will MEC encourage all those teachers and learners who are ready to go to school this week, or are you encouraging them to only go from the 8th?
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable MEC.
Thank you so much, Chair of Chairs. Thank you so much, Member Ramolefo, for follow-up question. The reality is that we've got one South Africa, and there's one constitution in this country. We don't have a federal state. We have a state that is run at the center, and education, the responsibilities that are assigned to the minister and the responsibilities that are assigned to the MECs. Responsibilities that are assigned to the minister include determination of school calendars and also determination when school can start and when school can end. And that responsibility is not shared with MECs. And the misbehavior and the attitude of the Western Cape government to think that they're a federal state or they're a government on their own and they can defy national government and open schools when we are told not to open schools must be rejected by this legislature. It's a behavior that demonstrates that they don't support the need to ensure that all children are treated equally. You cannot have a country where the privileged must continue to enjoy privileges and those that are poor must not be given the relevant support. The mere fact that the rich are ready to go back to school in Western Cape does not mean those that are not rich in Khayelitsha must be undermined. And therefore, the decision that was gazetted by the minister must be respected, because that function lies with the minister, does not lie with any other MEC across all the provinces. And that is why, as Gauteng, we've decided to align ourselves with the national ministry's call that schools, yes, will start on the 1st, but children will join the teachers on the 8th of June, and that decision must be respected. Thank you so much, Chair of Chairs.
Thank you very much, Honorable MEC. Can we then move to the next question? Member Shackleton, his question is directed to member responsible for community safety, Honorable MEC Mazibuko. Member Shackleton. Member Shackleton, please ask your question.
Thank you, Chair of Chairs. Through you to the MEC for Community Safety. Regarding cases of domestic violence, could the MEC please indicate, 1, since the start of the lockdown to date, how many cases of domestic violence have been reported in Gauteng? 2, how many cases of domestic violence were reported to the same period in 2019? 3, of those in number 1, how many have resulted in arrests? 4, what steps has the department taken to assist individuals who have been victims of domestic violence during this period? And 5, has the department partnered with any other department to offer a holistic solution to domestic violence during the nationwide lockdown? Thank you, Chair of Chairs.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Honourable MEC, please respond to questions.
Thank you very much, Chair, and greetings to all honourable members, Premier and Speaker. On question number 1, since the lockdown started, there were 3,249 cases that were reported. On question number 2, how many of these cases in the same period? They were 4,787 cases last year. On question number 3, how many have resulted in arrest? The answer is 2,339 arrests were made. 2,339 arrests were made. Chair, I'm correcting that, Chair of Chairs. And what steps has the department taken to assist individuals? Honorable Chair of Chairs, members of the SAPS were made aware of the new regulation. Remember, during lockdown, there were no movement of people. But then, since the new regulation that was amended on the 14th of May in relation to the Disaster Management Act, it made provisions for the movement of persons due to domestic violence, and members of the SAPS and other responsible people were assisting victims of domestic violence to obtain the necessary travel permits and also to provide safe passage for them. Even at police stations, the flow management concept was developed so that then those that come in to report cases of domestic violence do not stand in the queues at the client service centers, and also they get immediate attention, and they are also referred to the victim empowerment centers. And the SAPS worked with the Department of Community Safety and Social Development through their referral metrics, where GBV victims were provided with necessary support, such as transport to hospitals, transport to safe houses, and where necessary. And the Ikale Temba continued with the holistic psychosocial support to victims of GBV, which included psychosocial support and medical legal support. On question number 5, has the department partnered with any department? Yes, we have department with the Department of Social Development and all other departments in the provincial government together with the SAPS in ensuring that we offer holistic solutions to domestic violence cases. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable MEC Member Jacobson. Any follow-up questions?
Thank you, Chair of Chairs. If I may ask the MEC for Community Safety, what is the strategy to curb domestic violence in the province, taking into account the proven link between the use of alcohol and contact crimes now that the sale of alcohol has been allowed? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, MEC.
As the Department of Community Safety, in fact, as the Gauteng Provincial Government, we have adopted the GPV plan, which seeks to address all these challenges that Member Shackleton is referring to, working together with the Department of Economic Development through their liquor board in ensuring that they also conduct their own awareness campaigns in ensuring that those that will have drunk too much, they don't end up going home to go and abuse their spouses, and even those that find themselves on the wrong side of the law. And in fact, we are also pushing a narrative that says those that are abusing now, it must be them that must start vacating their households and move to safe places, instead of allowing women and children to be the ones that are running around with their children trying to find a safe place. But in all, Chairperson, we have formulated it and will share with the member. Instead, I take longer responding on that question. I'll actually supply it in writing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, MEC Mazibuko, for your response. May I then request that Member Nseke reads question 4 SD004 that is directed to the member of the Executive Council for Social Development, Honorable MEC Member Nseke.
Thank you, Acting Speaker. Regarding the food banks in the province, before the lockdown, how many food parcels did each food bank process per month? In April and May 2020, how many food parcels was each food bank able to process? Of these, how many were recurring requests from people that were already registered as recipients before the lockdown? In April and in May 2020, how many requests were made to the call center using SMS, email, or phoning in? And of the new applications, mainly through the call center that qualify, how many have not been fulfilled to date? Thank you, Acting Chairperson.
Member Nseke, this question was responded to when one of the members asked the question and you made a follow-up. And because of time, can I then request that a written response is directed to you, since the MEC did respond to a supplementary question? Can we then move to the next question?
Chair? Sorry,
yes.
Chair.
Which was responded to, ma'am?
No, Chair, it's a different question.
But remember, when you did, you actually made a supplementary question, ma'am. You also asked this question in particular.
I did not touch on food banks at all, Chair of Chairs. I spoke only about a ward, and Member Bosch asked about the call center. This one specifically talks to the food bank, the 5 food banks in the regions.
Okay. Honorable MEC, can you just isolate those questions that you didn't respond to previously and answer the one about food banks? Honorable MEC? Tate Lissof. Tate 100.
Yeah, but yes, I'm answering, Chair.
Okay.
Can you hear me now, Chair of Chairs?
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity. I was saying you were right to indicate that we responded to this question when there were supplementary question in an earlier question. Member Nseke may not have specifically asked about the food banks, but we gave context on how the food banks work and how many food parcels we've distributed. But nevertheless, I'll go through that exercise again, if you don't mind, Chair, and we'll provide the relevant information in writing because it's quite a detailed report. But we'll make a summary of everything so that Member Ntsege can get the full answers that she has requested. I'll start with the region of Johannesburg, Member Ntsege. By week 8, which was the 1st of June, we distributed a total number of 30,551 food parcels in Johannesburg. In Sedibeng, we distributed 21,223 food parcels. In Tshwane, we distributed 73,292 food parcels. In Western, we distributed 23,997 food parcels. In Ekurhuleni, we distributed 23,648, and in total, we distributed 172,711 food parcels. If you take into consideration the food parcels that are also distributed by the South African Social Security Agency, that is SASSA, they also distributed 11,706 food parcels in Gauteng, and this brings to a total number of 184,417 food parcels. In terms of the call center numbers, we can also make a breakdown of all the call center numbers that we received from day one up till yesterday. Yesterday alone, the numbers increased to over 10,000 calls that we've received, but we can give you a breakdown of each and every day if you don't mind. As I said, this is a detailed report that we can provide. The other form of support that we're giving is through social grants, which are specifically allocated to our province of Gauteng. And as of the 1st of June, we had 1.9 million beneficiaries that were receiving social grants. And the total amount that we paid for social grants as part of our poverty fighting mechanism was 2.7 billion rands. Of those grants, those that are directly benefiting children are over 2 million. Even though we have 1.9 million beneficiaries, we've got more than 2 million children that are receiving, because other children are receiving grants in terms of child support grant, but also in terms of foster care grant. And in some instances, the care dependency grant, they establish something. We also have offices that have recorded interest of people that requested food parcels, that they've gone to various offices ranging from Alexander, Beggersdal, Benoni, Bromosprey, and I don't know, 4 members about those particular details. So as of yesterday, we're now distributing almost 4,000 food parcels a day. That were consolidated figures of all the regions. As I have earlier indicated, the Chair of Chairs, if there are follow-up questions, I will submit this written answer to Member Ntsege. The information covers every area, and Member Ntsege can utilize that information if there are follow-ups that are needed. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, MEC. May I then request Member Ntsege to make a follow-up question, to ask a follow-up question, as well as make a comment if she wants to. Member Ntsege.
Thank you very much, Chair of Chairs. I think I will appreciate the detailed response if I can get it from the acting MEC. Thank you very much. Then I can interrogate it in more detail. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Member Ntsege, as well as the MEC, for your response. Can I then hand over to the Speaker to continue with the meeting until the end? Honourable Speaker.
Thank you, Chair. And I call upon Honourable Masimula to raise her question to MEC for Sports, Recreation, Arts and Culture. Honourable Masimula.
Chair.
Yes.
Chair. She asked me to ask the question. She is having problems with logging.
Okay. Continue.
Thank you. As the EFF, we believe that libraries and community centers are an important cornerstone of a healthy community base, because they provide an enabling environment towards a community that embraces and encourages reading. Libraries and community development centers indirectly provide community members with a window of an opportunity for
order, member. No political speeches, please. Go straight to your questions. We don't have time. Actually, we're actually using borrowed time. Go to your question, please.
Honorable Chair, what the member is doing is reading what is in the order paper. Can you allow him, please? Honorable Dabo, continue.
Yeah, encourages reading libraries and community center indirectly provide community members with a window of opportunity for job searching, encourage the youth to explore various forms of research, sparks the generation of new ideas, provide a platform to those who enjoy reading of various stores. Most importantly, libraries and community centers provide a safe haven for kids to be less active in undevelopmental and ill-disciplined behavior that leads to an increase in the use of drugs, alcohol, and crime. The presence of that small community in Badirile, which is supposed to be a mobile center, Ward 1 Western Sub-Region, leaves much to be desired. That mobile center we currently see as an unusable small container is not fully equipped and does not accommodate a community that is keen on making use of such facilities. Will the MEC of SREC kindly respond to the following? 1. When does the department plan on building a proper structure and remove the undesirable, unusable, and unserviced mobile structure in Badirile, Ward 1 in the Western region? In your response, kindly provide the amount in rands and cents. 3. What interventions does the department have in place to encourage the community in Badirile, Ward 1, to take advantage of the library services upon its completion? In your response, kindly provide details of the intervention programs plans to be implemented and the timeline. And lastly, what security measures will the department put in place in library upon its completion to prevent the threat, vandalism, and mismanagement of the resources? Thank you.
Honorable Mr. Chappell.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the member for the question. With regards to the library, the department has met with representatives of youth from Badirile, with Western Municipality Library Management, and the MMC for Community Development. The meeting held agreed that the department will build a new brick and mortar library within the community, and the library will be prioritized in the list of libraries planned over the MTF period. The Rand West Municipality has, in this regard, been tasked to confirm the land availability and to further secure a council resolution. While awaiting this process, the department, together with the Rand West Municipality, is planning to bring a temporary mobile library. The Rand West Library Manager and an official from the department identified what is called a smart container. The smart container library is the size of a small library, which is plus minus 400 square meters, which could accommodate a book section, a computer section, a study room, and it can be utilized as a library whilst we await the more permanent brick and mortar structure. With regard to question 2, the funding for the solid structure will be provided from Provincial Treasury after the MTF list of the new libraries has been approved. With regard to question 3, Speaker, the department currently has a number of reading programs in all our corridors, and such programs will even continue within Badirile. These programs include storytelling, reading aloud, the word raffle, the spelling bee, public speaking, with the inclusion of now our virtual library to make further reading and sourcing of books, your e-newspapers, and Britannica to be much easier, and it's online for all. So these are some of the interventions that we have put in place to promote further reading within the community. In addition to that, with regard to the last question that you have asked on the security measures, the department transfers funding to municipalities on an annual basis, including the Rand West Municipality. This funding is for the operationalization of libraries, and it includes funding for library staff and security guards, which will help to prevent the threat of vandalism. The funds transferred to municipalities are also used to install a book security system, which ensures that patrons do not leave with library books that are unrecorded. They also have secure locks and are also installed to secure and protect computer equipment within all our libraries to ensure that there's reduced mismanagement and that of vandalism. I thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Doba, do you have a supplementary question or short comment?
Yes, Speaker. By when MEC will this smart container library be delivered? Thank you.
MEC?
The smart container library will be provided within this financial year, whilst we await the more formal one to be done within the MTF.
Thank you. The next question, Honorable Doba, MEC for Roads and Transport. Honorable Doba, your question for Roads and Transport.
You skip Honorable Mufama, it's fine. With regard to the promise made by the National Ministry of Transport on the 21st of July 2019 and the 220 buses that were to be dispensed to Hammanskraal area, North 2 region in Tshwane, an impending process of awarding new contracts to bus operators, will the MEC please respond to the following? 1. How many of the NTI buses that are operating Hammanskraal are roadworthy? 2. How far is the process towards the dispensing of approximately 220 buses to Hammanskraal, North 2 region in Tshwane? 3. Has there been any discussion between the MEC and the Minister of Transport on this promise? In your response, please indicate what was the Minister's commitment with regard to the matter in 2 above. 4. Has there been any attempt from the MEC to engage the NTI bus company regarding their aging buses and the high level of accidents on the roads? In your response, please outline in detail the agreements reached should such engagement attempts be made. And lastly, has the MEC and the department reached out to the families of people who have passed away whilst in the buses after the minister's visit last year? Please provide details of engagement with the families of the deceased as well as the injured survivors. Thank you.
Honorable MEC Mamabula.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker and Honorable Members and the Premier. Thanks, Honorable Doba. The thrust to your reply is that National Treasury, following Minister's commitment, had actually approved the supply of 260 buses to NTI. But following this pronouncement, you may be aware NTI was placed under provisional liquidation, and the process is to be allowed to take its logical conclusion. That is purely because the procurement process could only be done through existing contracts on that route. So the provisional liquidation, I'm not sure if you're aware, was lifted just on the 5th of May. And the discussions will take place since then. Now, in order for NTI to honor its contractual obligations, 500 buses are required for the areas where it has to provide. But we believe that with the clarity now provided on the liquidation process, it should be possible to perhaps deal with that matter, but it was essentially affected by liquidation. Now, with respect to the families of the deceased that were affected by the accidents, we are aware that NTI did visit the families, but as the department and myself as MEC, we have not yet visited the families, and it's a matter that we will look at. Thank you very much.
Do you have a supplementary question?
Hello, Speaker.
Yes, I called you.
Okay, thanks, Speaker, and thanks for the reply from the MEC. I think the MEC is quite aware that this matter is very critical in Hammanskraal area, particularly that in the past, on several occasions when we had public meetings, it kept on coming. But unfortunately, I think the information that he has provided has not been shared with the relevant structures in terms of the commuter structures that are there. And I would like to impress upon the MEC to make sure that the information that was provided is then taken to the community that is affected, particularly with regard to that liquidation process. I was happy that it was liquidated. Now that it has been uplifted, it's going to be another problem because the committee made it very clear that they don't need any NTI buses. I think the MEC is quite aware on that one as well. Thank you.
Any comments, Honorable MEC?
Just a comment. We will make sure that we engage with the transport stakeholders to bring this information to their attention. But I must just indicate that prior to the State of the Province address in Harankua, we did have an interaction with the community and stakeholders on the matter. We will make further updates. The everlasting solution to the problem of buses in the province, including all the routes in Hammanskraal, Mabopane, Mawika, and all those areas, it's a new tender that we have discussed in the portfolio committee. And unfortunately, progress on that was affected by COVID-19. But we will find a lasting solution. If this tender that was first advertised in 1998, and that was the last time, will be re-advertised again, we will find a better solution to this matter. Thank you.
Thanks, MEC. The next question again, Honorable Lidwaba to MEC for COGTA, Traditional Affairs and Human Settlement.
Thank you, Speaker. With regard to the provision of water tanks, mobile toilets, and the desertification program that were announced by the National Ministry, will the MEC please respond to the following? 1, how many water tanks and mobile toilets and TRUs are allocated to Gauteng Province? 2, what is the role of the department and municipalities, particularly Tshwane, in the provision of these ablution and water facilities in one above to the designated communities? 3, how many communities or informal settlements have been identified to benefit from this program? In your response, please indicate how were these communities identified. 4, how many of these structures or facilities have been dispensed to various communities in Gauteng to date? In your response, please indicate how much in rent and cents was of this in the province. And have there been any challenges with regards to consultation processes with the affected communities, and how have they responded to the installations? Thank you.
Honorable MEC.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and thanks, Honorable Member Lidwaba, for the question. The answer to question 1 is that there's a total of 1,723 water storage tanks and 46 water tankers or trucks that have been provided by the Department of Water and Sanitation. And there's 1,501 tanks and 310 trucks or tankers provided by the municipalities. And there is no mobile toilets, or rather, there were no mobile toilets allocated by the department and the municipalities. On question 2, the Department of COGTA, the Department of Water and Sanitation, rather of COGTA, oversees the distribution and installation of the facilities, whilst municipalities identifies needy communities, installs and ensure the facilities are operational. The question 3, The answer is there's a total of 620 informal settlements that have been identified through the 2 districts and 3 metros. And the main criteria used was to focus on the fact that they are vulnerable communities and that they are in informal settlements. So this is, I think, almost all informal settlements, if not most of them. On question 4, the answer is a total of 3,234 tanks have been dispensed to communities, including tanks provided by municipalities. And the cost for the service has not been provided to us by municipalities and by national. As you know, we are not spending any cent. On question 5, there has been concerns around the water tanks not being regularly filled with water, but the matter is matters were resolved with the responsible municipalities. And from time to time, whenever we receive complaints and there's problems, we raise them with specific municipalities. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Litaba.
Thank you, Speaker. I wanted to find out from the MEC, because in other areas we have submitted requests to the effect that the informal settlements that are in need of these facilities. And then at the same time comment the MEC because there is an area where you intervene and we're provided with 100 mobile toilets and 5 water tanks. But majority of the requests that we made to the MEC have not been responded to positively, just to find out what are the constraints, what is happening. And lastly, Speaker, with regard to the issue of mobile toilets, or rather the ablution facilities, the Department of Water and Sanitation has made that commitment that they will provide those facilities. What is the reason that they have not been provided so far? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable MEC.
Thank you very much, Speaker. All the complaints or inquiries that members of the public, including members of the legislature or national parliament and other public representatives bring to our attention, we direct them to the municipalities. If there has not been any, because we receive a lot of these complaints on a daily basis, and if there's not been any positive response, I think Member Litwaba knows what to do, like he did when the toilets were not delivered. And then we're able to make a follow-up, because we don't implement. It's the municipalities that implements, and it's working with Water and Sanitation National. And that is because that's not the competence of the province. So we are just coordinating. And why was sanitation that, or rather toilets that were promised not delivered? I think, Member Litwaba, I want to advise you to ask one of your members in the National Assembly to ask the Minister of Water and Sanitation. And I think you'll get a proper answer, so that I don't answer something that I don't have power over. Thanks.
Thank you. I skipped Honorable Mufama on purpose as I was trying to check whether she was still in the house. Honorable Mufama, your question to MEC for social development.
Thank you, Speaker. It's not social development, it's infrastructure. With regard to infrastructure development of Vlakfontein Clinic, that has been neglected for some time now. In light of this pandemic, which has led more infection in the facility because of poor condition of the clinic and inadequate service, a shortage of staff and resources, could MC respond to the following questions? Number 1, when will your department address the infrastructure crisis at Vlakfontein Clinic? Number 2, What is the budget allocation for renovation of existing clinics that are essential to communities like the Vlafontein Clinic? In your response, kindly provide the amount in rents and cents. Number 3, how does the department expect members of the community to practice social distancing while attempting to attain essential medical service in a public place that is not well structured? Number 4, what measures will taking to make sure that workers and patients interact in a structure that complies with regulation placed by Ntate President Cyril Ramaphosa? Number 4, what is the department budget allocation for EPWP workers service deployed by your department to assist fighting the COVID-19 pandemic? In your response, kindly indicate the amount in rents and cents and provide at least deployment posts for these EPWP workers. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable MEC.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you to the member who has asked the question. On the question 1, the response is as follows. The Department of Infrastructure Development has not yet received a request for service from the client department, which in this instance is the Department of Health. However, we are working on a program to do conditional assessments of all our clinics in the province, following which we should receive requests for service to do any refurbishment or any structural changes to clinics. Therefore, question 2 or question 1, for any additional information regarding future plans for Vlafontein Clinic, the question could please be directed to the Department of Health. On subsection 2 of the question, there is no budget allocation for the refurbishment of the clinic. Question 3, also because we have not received any request for service or plans from the Department of Health, we are unable to respond to subsection 3 and subsection 4. On the question subsection 5, on the EPWP workers, the response is as follows. The Department of Infrastructure Development is currently preparing for the recruitment of 2,500 National Youth Service participants for the period 2020 to 2022. The department is engaging with the Departments of Health and Education to ascertain the percentage of NYS participants that will be deployed to schools, hospitals, clinics, and other government facilities and buildings, whether to assist with COVID-2019 needs and beyond. The details of this deployment to host sites are therefore not yet available, but will be provided when it does become available. The allocated budget for this financial year, while we want to roll the program out for 2 financial years, the allocated budget for this financial year is 85,727,000 for the stipends of the 2,500 NYS participants over a 12-month period. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. Any supplementary question or short comment, Honorable Mufama?
No, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. That brings us to the end of our sitting today. I wish to take this opportunity to thank all members present in the meeting and also note the challenges that we had. I have requested the ICT team to continue investigating what make us to be disrupted in these meetings. Our next sitting will be on the 18th of June at 10 hours. Thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned.